First off, I just want to say thank you. I've known about you. The earliest memory I can really remember is being 10 years old and driving in the car with my mom, and I was actually talking to a couple I just met. And I'd always refer to my mom's friend as that hippie friend. And my mom and my best friend at the time, which was her son, we heard your voice come on in the car. It was like a racket to our ears. We couldn't seem to understand the clout that it brought. And it was consistently on from as long as I can remember in my mom's house. So, but I mean, when you're a kid, you never really think about these things. You don't understand.
Well, you haven't lived enough discord to understand the value. You haven't been enough out of alignment to understand the value of getting back into alignment.
Exactly. And it wasn't until about 10 years later, when I was 19, about 3 years ago, that I came home from a brief visit from college. And, college started to expand my ideals and really kind of going really headstrong towards what I really wanted. And I wasn't actively listening, but of course, when I came in, you were on the CD. And even though I wasn't actively listening, something, I don't remember what was said exactly, but it just clicked. From that moment moving forward, I just started listening to it actively from not even really listening to it at all. Because at the time in college, I was put into a class with, just in general, when you're a freshman walking in a very large university, everybody has that same mindset of just, unfortunately, going crazy and, doing what's, I guess, what you see on TV or something of what's expected. And the things I wanted were just so much greater, and I viscerally knew I wanted great things. And the people I was around were very against that in a way. From what you said earlier, the perception of what they thought was viable in their life wasn't exactly viable in anybody else's if you wanted something that was so great and so good.
That's because there is a shortage consciousness that is a bit rampant in humanity, that goes something like, if you reach for greatness and find it, then you will deprive others of some greatness, and so you should be willing to settle for less in order to spread it around more equitably. That's sort of the thing that makes someone not want you to reach for all that you want. But then again, it doesn't matter how many chairs they see in the room, does it?
No. And the wonderful part to that is, even though I was still kind of getting into it and understanding these things, the development, at the time, all I could think about was, because I was around all these, unfortunately I have to use this word, horny teenagers. I wanted something so much deeper than that. I wanted something that, I could relate to. And
we're just going to say something to you softly and easily here. Don't use what's in your past as such a important point in why you're where you're at. We haven't said this before, but it's been brewing, and so this is a really good opportunity to talk about this. You know how you're in a situation, in general or in specific, where you want something, and it isn't a popular thing to desire, let's say, and so you make excuses about why you're not going to do that, rather than just boldly saying, I want to do this. And when you say, it's my intention to do such and such, there's clarity in that. This is going to feel a little off the subject, but it isn't. It's like someone asking you to do something that you don't really want to do. Maybe it's go visit them, maybe it's spend an evening with them, and it really doesn't feel like a match to you. And so there's a very common thing where you say, well, I'd like to, but I can't because. And then you begin explaining these reasons, sort of making stuff up, maybe some of it's real, and making stuff up, why you can't go, rather than just advocating for what you do want. And so that's what you're doing here as you're explaining to us what you were surrounded with and how it held you back and how it hindered you in this way or that way. What it really did was help you get clear about who you are and what you want. And now you're in a place where you can just begin advocating for what you want. You see, you don't have to advocate for what you want in order to set it into motion, because that contrast that you lived already set it into motion. But every time you advocate for it, you match it. So you let the universe yield to you ideas and impulses and experiences. But every minute you spend explaining why you aren't doing it, you're not in vibrational alignment with what the vortex is wanting and trying to yield to you. Can you feel that?
For sure.
Yeah. So what we would like to hear from you from this point forward is about the irrelevance of anyone else and what they're doing.
And that's what I wanted to lead into. It was really only until very recently that it feels so good not to care about what other people think.
Well, here's the thing. It isn't that you don't care, because you do care.
Sure.
And you're putting the best parts of what you're synthesizing into your vortex. So you're not uncaring, and you're not benefiting by your relationship and exposure to them.
Sure.
You're gleaning everything that you want. But in this now clear advocation about what you want, rather than explaining what you're not doing, just talking about what you are doing, now it clears up. It'll trim years off of the manifestation time of the things that are important to you.
Sure.
One of the things that's most interesting is to see any of you go from your smaller world of influence into a greater world of influence. Because in the greater world of influence, like going to school, in that greater world of influence, you are catapulting rockets of desire many times more powerfully, and therefore summoning much more source, and therefore much more aware of your emotions, because the energy is moving faster and you haven't found your balance yet. But as soon as you find your balance, and the main component in finding your balance is by not caring so much about anybody else's response to what you want, to what you think, to what you believe, and to what you do, then off you go. And as the universe yields to you swiftly because of your clarity, it is an attention-getting experience for them as well. But if you spend any time trying to explain to them what you're doing that they're not doing, then you're not doing it either.
Correct. So my main question, and this was actually requested by my mom, is being in the vortex, is that a relative feeling for everybody? So when somebody gets satisfaction or just pure joy out of, let's say, weaving a carpet or something, or doing something that may not seem, I'm not sure if morally correct might be the right word, if they get satisfaction from both of those things, is that a relative feeling?
Well, let's give a new definition to morally correct, because what most people mean when they're talking about morally correct is you doing it the way I believe you should do it.
Sure. Oh, sure.
And so anytime that you are feeling elation or joy or those emotions that you know the clarity and pureness and wonderful feeling of them, that means you're in sync with what source is thinking about same thing. And so we think that it puts a new understanding on what is morality. Societies have historically tried to guide the communities from a stance of true immorality, in the sense that they are often not advocating what is best for the individual or even what is best for the whole, but what is best for the one who is dictating the law. In other words, even parents do that. What's good is for you to please me, is what almost everyone who's seeking control of conditions is saying. And those who are seeking control of conditions are frustrated because you can't control conditions, because you can't control the vibrational stance of another. So once you get in sync with who you are, so that you are consistently lined up with that point of view and receiving inspiration and then following through with that inspiration, the satisfaction that comes from that is not describable with words.
With that said, so that feeling, if everybody feels that, because you can't describe that, that's everybody innately understands that?
Well, we think everybody innately understands what feeling good is. But feeling good really is relative. And here's why. If you've lived a contrasting life, so you've launched lots of rockets of desire, So Source is answering lots of requests. So there's a strong momentum going. And you are non-resistant because you've meditated, or because you just woke up, or because you've been appreciating. So you are non-resistant to this fast-moving energy. Your positive emotion is going to feel really, really strong and good to you. Here's another way of saying it. If you really, really want something and you really, really don't believe it, it's going to feel really, really, really bad. If you sort of want it and you sort of don't believe it, it's going to feel sort of bad. So the faster the energy is moving, which means the more momentum your desire has, then the more it serves you, if you want to feel good, to be in alignment with your own desire. So you can't talk against who you really are. So people have different degrees of desire. There are people who have held themselves back from life so that they're not launching many rockets. So the energy isn't moving that fast, so they can be more content and complacent in non-activity. There are those who have launched rockets who must move in the direction of those rockets in order to feel good. And it doesn't have to be the young having all the enthusiasm and the old wanting to sit in the chair in front of the television. It really is about the energy that you've launched, or the rockets that you've launched, and your relationship to them. Sure. Enjoyed this leading edge conversation. Leading edge is where it's at. When you are a master of creation, you can't go back. You can't settle into something that was before. You are in a different vibrational place than you were just a few hours ago. Your willingness to participate here, to pay attention, to focus, and to experience the energy of this conversation has served you well, because in your willingness you have accepted a vibrational frequency that's more akin to who you naturally are. So you have a different relationship now than you've ever had before with your vortex, which means the impulses of your vortex are going to be more obvious to you. Our encouragement is that you don't try to make anything happen. In other words, don't leave here with a determination that now you're really going to get it done. Understand that you already got it done, and now you're going to enjoy watching what you got done unfold. That really is the way we want you to feel about it. Watch the unfolding, but feel for the impulses. And don't get freaky or crazy about it. In other words, it's not like standing with an ear to the ground listening for every little thing. Obvious things will happen. It's obvious stuff that will happen. It's going to happen to you because you've already done it. You're not making it happen. You're letting happen what you've already caused to be. Can you feel the difference in that? So just chill and have fun. And if we could zap you with the worthy stick, we would. If we could assert something to you, and we can't, it would be your acceptance of you being in the right place at the right time, because you are. It's a good time for you to begin to allow a cashing in of your vibrational currency. It's a good time for you to accept the connectedness that is you, to begin acknowledging that you are psychic also, that you are receptive also, that Source is keenly aware of you and infinitely interested in you, and that everything that you have collaboratively queued up for yourself is unfolding here and here and here and here and here and here and here. Pay attention to your emotions, and if you feel impatient, try to talk that impatience down. Remind yourself that it's all right and that things are always working out for you. And the more often you remind yourself that things are always working out for me, things are always working out for me, the more evidence of that will show itself to you, and the more you will believe it. Until in time, you will know about you what we know about you, and that is that there is nothing that you cannot be or do or have if this time-space reality has helped you to develop a conscious desire for it.